The year was 1964. The place, a private gymnasium in San Francisco. And the challenge was simple, but terrifying. A 230-kilogram man sat in the center of the room. His arms were the size of most men's legs. His chest looked like a wall of solid stone. For months, every fighter who dared step up to him walked away beaten, broken, or too humiliated to speak about it again. People called him the immovable object. Not because it was a nickname, but because no one, not a single person, had ever moved him. Not 1 inch. Martial arts masters had tried. Bodybuilders had tried. Even a former wrestling champion had stepped up and stepped away with a dislocated shoulder and a bruised ego. And then, into that gym, walked a 135-pound Chinese-American man, 23 years old, lean as a wire, eyes calm and focused. Bruce Lee. The crowd laughed. Some people turned away, not wanting to watch what they assumed would be an embarrassing beatdown. The 230 kilograms giant looked at Bruce and smirked. "You sure you want to do this, little man?" Bruce didn't answer with words. He answered with something far more powerful: action. What happened next would be talked about for decades. It would be studied in martial arts schools, discussed in boardrooms, and used to teach one of life's most powerful lessons. That real strength has nothing to do with size. To understand what happened that day, you need to understand where Bruce Lee came from and what he was carrying on his shoulders. Bruce Lee was born on November 27th, 1940, in San Francisco, but grew up in Hong Kong. From the time he was a young boy, he was told what he couldn't do. Too small, too thin, too mixed. His father was Chinese, his mother part German. In a world that didn't always accept people who didn't fit neatly into one box, Bruce learned early that the world would test him. When he was 13, his father enrolled him in Wing Chun Kung Fu under the legendary master Ip Man. This was traditional Chinese martial arts, and Bruce absorbed it like a sponge. But he didn't just absorb it. He questioned it. He broke it apart and rebuilt it in his mind. At 18, he moved back to the United States with almost no money, a passion for martial arts, and a burning belief that he could change the way the world thought about fighting and about Asian people. By 1964, Bruce had already started teaching martial arts out of a small school in Seattle. He had developed the early foundations of what would become Jeet Kune Do, his own philosophy of combat. But the mainstream martial arts world didn't take him seriously. To them, he was an outsider, a small guy with big ideas. And now here he stood, in front of a 230 kilograms mountain of muscle, with everything to prove and nothing to lose. But there was one thing Bruce had that the crowd couldn't see. One thing that no amount of size or strength could replace. He understood something about power that most people never learn in their entire lives. Let's be honest about what Bruce Lee was walking into that day. 230 kilograms. That is 507 pounds. That is not just a big man. That is a force of nature wearing human skin. When this man breathed in, the room seemed to get smaller. When he moved, the floor vibrated. The fighters who had faced him before told horror stories. One martial artist, a third-degree black belt, had thrown his best punch and watched it land like throwing a tennis ball at a brick wall. The giant hadn't even flinched. He just smiled, grabbed the man's arm, and tossed him across the room like a rag doll. Another challenger, a wrestling champion from Nevada, had tried to grab the giant and take him to the ground. The classic wrestling strategy. Use leverage, control the weight, bring it down. He'd managed to wrap both arms around the man's torso, and then spent the next minute struggling to breathe as the giant simply squeezed, like a python in reverse. The whispers in the gym that day were dark. People weren't rooting for Bruce to win. Most people were just hoping he wouldn't get seriously hurt. He's going to get crushed. One man muttered, not even trying to lower his voice. This is insane. Someone should stop this before it starts. Bruce heard all of it. He stood at the edge of the mat, eyes closed for just a moment. His breathing was slow. His hands were relaxed at his sides. And inside his mind, he was thinking, not about the man's size, not about the cheering or the doubt or the fear. He was thinking about water. One of Bruce Lee's most famous teachings was this: be like water. Water doesn't fight the rock. Water finds a way around it, through it, under it. Water is the most patient and the most powerful force in the world. But knowing the philosophy and living it are two very different things. This was the test, not just of his body, but of his entire belief system. Everything he had practiced, studied, sacrificed, and built was about to be weighed against 230 kilograms of raw, immovable strength. The giant cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed in the gym like a small explosion. "Ready, little man?" The room went completely silent, and Bruce Lee opened his eyes. What happened in the next few minutes would become one of the most retold stories in martial arts history. Bruce didn't charge. He didn't posture. He didn't try to match size with size or strength with strength. He did something that confused everyone in the room. He moved sideways. The giant lunged forward, and Bruce simply wasn't there. He sidestepped with a speed that the crowd's eyes could barely follow, redirecting the energy of the charge like a bullfighter stepping aside from a raging bull. The giant stumbled slightly, not much, but enough. And in that fraction of a second, Bruce did something that no one in the room had ever done before to this man. He struck, not at the chest, not at the arms, not where the armor was thickest. He struck at the precise point behind the knee, where even the strongest man has no support. The giant's leg buckled, just slightly, just for a moment. The crowd inhaled sharply. The giant's eyes went wide, not with pain, but with something he hadn't felt in a long time. Surprise. He swung back. A massive, powerful swing that would have taken Bruce's head clean off his shoulders if it had connected. But Bruce was already moving, ducking under it, rolling with the force of the swing instead of resisting it, coming up on the other side. 3 more times this happened, the giant attacking, Bruce redirecting, finding the small gaps in a wall of muscle that everyone else had assumed had no gaps at all. And then, the moment that left the room speechless, Bruce stepped in close, not at arm's length where punches are thrown and blocks are made. He stepped in so close that he was almost inside the giant's arms. It was the last place anyone expected him to be, the last place the giant expected him to be. He delivered a precise, focused strike, the 1-inch punch, directly to the solar plexus. 1 inch of movement, generated not by the arm or the shoulder, but by the rotation of the entire body. The snap of the hips, the push from the ground through the legs, focused into a single point of impact. The 230 kilograms man stepped backward. 1 step, 2 steps. Then he sat down, heavily, abruptly, onto the mat. Not knocked out, not injured, but genuinely, physically moved by a man less than half his weight. The gym was completely silent for 3 full seconds. And then the room exploded. People were on their feet. Someone was shouting. The giant, and this is the part that says everything about who he really was, looked up at Bruce Lee and not with anger, with genuine, deep, surprised laughter. He extended his hand and said, Bruce helped him to his feet. They shook hands. And in that moment, something important had shifted, not just in the room, but in the world. That story isn't just about martial arts. It's about something all of us face every single day. Something that seems too big, too powerful, too heavy to move. Maybe it's a financial struggle that has beaten every plan you've tried. Maybe it's a relationship that feels impossible to fix. Maybe it's a dream you've almost given up on because the world keeps telling you that people like you don't win. And what does the world tell us to do? Fight harder. Push more. Add more weight to the other side of the scale. Match size with size. Strength with strength. But that's not what Bruce Lee did. And that's not what changed the room that day. They are defeated by insight, by patience, by finding the one angle that everyone else overlooked. He had spent years studying not just how to fight, but how to think. He read philosophy. He studied physics. He questioned everything he was taught and rebuilt his understanding from the ground up. When everyone else saw an unbreakable wall, Bruce saw a door that nobody had bothered to find. The most powerful forces in nature, gravity, water, electricity, are invisible. Real power comes from understanding, not from muscle. Every seemingly immovable obstacle has a weak point. Your job is not to be stronger. Your job is to be smarter, more patient, and more willing to look where others haven't looked. Bruce Lee didn't walk into that gym and improvise. He had trained for years. He had thought deeply. He had studied every failure of the fighters before him. When the moment came, he was ready. Not because he was stronger, but because he was prepared. The room that day expected size to win. Bruce Lee reminded the world that wisdom, speed, and the right angle can move mountains, even 230-kilogram ones. And tell us in the comments, the one thing in your life that seems immovable? Write it below. You might be surprised how many people are facing the exact same wall. We read every comment, and next time, we'll bring you another story of someone who looked at the impossible and made it move. See you in the next one.